Hello friends, welcome back to Learn with Lakshman Dharmaraj. Today we're going to talk about scientific conduct in research. Why is it important to talk about scientific conduct in research? It is important to talk about scientific conduct in research because scientific conduct in research is regarded as ethical code of conduct. If you are not scientific, you are not ethical in research. So be scientific and be ethical in research. Now let's try to understand what is research first. We have talked about this, but still, as we are talking about scientific conduct in research, we need to talk about research again. So what is research? Research is a systematic and creative actions taken to increase knowledge. It's a very simple definition of research. It is a systematic and creative actions taken to increase knowledge. Scientific research is performed by applying systematic and constructed scientific methods to obtain, analyze, and interpret data. See, there are things, steps in the research. In the research, what are the steps? The steps are obtaining the data, analyzing the data, and interpreting the data. So scientific research is performed by applying systematic and well constructed scientific methods. These scientific methods are used to obtain the data, to analyze the data, and to interpret the data. According to Capella Co. Don Mays, 2016, scientific research is the neutral, systematic, planned, and multiple step process that uses previously discovered facts to advance knowledge. This is an interesting definition. Scientific research is neutral. It is not biased. It is objective. It is systematic. It is not random. It is planned. And it is a process in which there are plenty of steps. So it is called neutral, systematic, planned, and multiple step process that uses previously discovered facts to advance knowledge. To take the knowledge further, one step ahead. That is what you call scientific research. Understanding scientific conduct. We know that all scientific inventions start with a specific research question and end with answering the question with logical evidences. That means every scientific invention begins with a research question and ends with answering the question with the help of logical evidences. Okay, say for instance there is a question, why does everything fall down instead of going up in the sky? The answer is there is nothing like sky, and the next answer is everything falls down because earth has its gravitational force. The next thing one should keep in the mind is scientific method should be neutral, objective, and rational. When I say that a scientific method should be neutral, I mean that there should be no bias in the mind of the researcher. When I say that scientific method should be objective, I mean to say that one shouldn't try to force in his or her personal opinions. One should rely on the data only instead of including the personal opinions of the researcher. The research plan should include the procedure to obtain data and evaluate the variables. It is also very important to have a plan, and that plan should include the procedure to obtain data and to evaluate the variables in the research. Say for instance, I have a research problem, the impact of hydroxychloroquine on the patients of COVID-19. Let us understand this as a problem. Now, if you are trying to take research on this topic, that impact of hydroxychloroquine on the patients of COVID-19, I have to collect the data. How would I collect the data? I have to give details of the things as to how I am going to collect the data. The data, let us say the data will be collected from the hospitals. Now, how many hospitals? I also have to select the number of hospitals. Let us say I am going to select data from the 10 hospitals from the 10 different cities. Now, these 10 cities may be from the different states. Let us say one from Maharashtra, other from Gujarat, other from Kerala, and different states. Now, the data that I am going to collect from the hospitals is 10 hospitals and 100 patients from each hospital. This I have to specify. After having specified this, I'll also tell that I'll classify my patients into patients with severe symptoms, patients with moderate symptoms, and patients with mild symptoms. Then the patients can be classified into groups as age group of 1 to 20, age group of 20 to 40, age group of 40 to 60, and above 60. Then you can also classify patients as the patients with comorbidities and patients with no comorbidities. Then you can also classify patients in patients addicted, patients not addicted, patients addicted with nicotine, patients addicted with alcohol, and patients not addicted with anything. We have to consider everything like this in our plan, then our plan will be regarded as a good research plan. Once the data is collected, it should be analyzed with the most appropriate statistical methods and be rearranged to make more sense if needed. Sometimes it happens that we may find the difference between the results from different places. So we have to understand as to why these differences are there, and we can rearrange our data and try to make sense out of it. We also have to keep in our minds that research should always be open to the scientific criticism. We shouldn't say that this is my research and one shouldn't question it. Research definitely needs to be questioned, and researchers should be ready to answer these questions. Then we have to understand ethics with respect to science and research. The scientific research is expected to make innovations and report accurately the results obtained. That we know. If it is a scientific method in research, what is expected from a scientific method? From the scientific method, it is expected that it should make innovations and report accurately the results obtained from the research. According to National Academy of Science in 2009, scientific learning is attained through research, dialogue, and deliberations. Research, dialogue, and deliberation. Therefore, criticism is always welcome in research because there are dialogue and deliberations in research. So, scientific learning is attained through research, dialogue, and deliberations. According to Resnick 2011, ethics are the norms of conduct that differentiate between acceptable and unacceptable behavior. What is the definition of ethics according to Resnick? According to Resnick, ethics are the norms of conduct that differentiate between acceptable and unacceptable behavior. What is acceptable conduct and what is not acceptable conduct in relation to the research? What does it include? It includes the principles, standards, and practices that underlie educators' professional behavior and conduct. What are the principles, what are the standards, and what are the practices expected from an educator or the professional behavior of a person? Okay, according to Stenek 2006, the unethical behavior in research is a deliberate act of misconduct, falsification, fabrication, plagiarism, questionable research practices, and irresponsible conduct. According to Stenek 2006, the unethical behavior in research is a deliberate act of misconduct. If deliberately misconduct is done, deliberate act of misconduct, falsification, fabrication, falsification, stating wrong things, false things, fabrication, preparing things, fabrication and plagiarism, copying things, and questionable research practices and irresponsible conduct. So, it is said by Stenek that the unethical behavior in research is a deliberate act of misconduct, falsification, fabrication, plagiarism, questionable research practices, and irresponsible conduct. Now, let's try to understand intellectual honesty and research integrity. Integrity is a quality of having strong moral principles. Intellectual honesty refers to honesty with respect to the meaning of one's research. Researchers must present proposals and data honestly and communicate their best understanding of the work. The description of an individual's work should not present selected data, but chronology of the discovery process as to how the researcher has come to know about the things in research process. It is also good to give clear and accurate research records of the research. That is, clear and accurate research record must underlie the descriptions. Whatever the researcher is trying to describe, it should be with the help of the records, and the record should be maintained by the researcher. It is also good that the researcher acknowledge the errors. Therefore, it is said that errors must be acknowledged. Integrity embodies commitment to intellectual honesty and personal responsibility for one's actions. So, one should be intellectually responsible and integral to the research work. Intellectual honesty and research integrity in research is also about accuracy in representing contributions to the research proposals and reports. There should also the fairness in peer review, The collegiality in scientific interactions, including communications and sharing of resources, transparency in conflicts of interest or potential conflicts of interest, protection of human subjects in the conduct of research, care of animals in the conduct of research, adherence to the mutual responsibilities, etc., are the points that one should remember that are included under the intellectual honesty and research integrity. Now let us try to understand scientific misconduct. Generally, FFP is regarded as scientific misconduct. FFP stands for fabrication, falsification, and plagiarism. So, fabrication, falsification, or plagiarism in proposing, performing, or reporting research is scientific misconduct. Smith 2006 has given the definition of scientific misconduct as any behavior by researcher that fails to scrupulously respect high scientific and ethical standards. The processes like obfuscation, ghostwriting, and image manipulation are other types of scientific misconduct. That is, one shouldn't write for the other, one shouldn't manipulate the images, one shouldn't copy the material. Okay, let us try to understand the fabrication. Fabrication is making up data or results and recording or reporting them. Falsification is manipulating research material, equipment, or processes, or changing or omitting data or results such that the research is not accurately represented in the research records. What is plagiarism? Plagiarism is the appropriation of another person's ideas, processes, results, or words without giving appropriate credit to the person who has written it. See, understanding plagiarism is very important in research. Misappropriation or theft of cerebral property and the substantial unattributed textual copying of someone's work is regarded as plagiarism. Plagiarism is misrepresenting other work as your own. It is copying someone else's work or ideas without giving credit. It is giving wrong information about the source of a quotation. It is also about not putting a quotation in quotation marks. It is also about copying the sources, sentences, structures, but changing the words without giving credit. It is also about copying many words from the source and making it as your work, whether the credit is given or not. This is given by BIC in 2019. Now, let's try to understand redundant publications, duplicate and overlapping publications, and salami slicing. An irresponsible practice which occurs when two or more papers share the same hypothesis, data, discussion points, or conclusions without full cross reference is called redundant practice or duplicate writing or overlapping publication. C. Publishing the same intellectual material more than once is also a duplicate kind of publication. We shouldn't do that. Multiple submission is not plagiarism in many cases, but it is today often viewed as an academic misbehavior because it can distort citation indexes and impact factors, which are considered very important these days, citation index and impact factor. A formalization of the policy of disallowing duplicate publications was given by Franz J. Ingelfinger, the editor of the New England Journal of Medicine, in 1969. This began in 1969. There shouldn't be a duplicate publication or there shouldn't be a overlapping publication. Ingelfinger coined the term Ingelfinger rule for banning republications in the journals. Another situation where redundant publication may be acceptable occurs when an article published in one language is translated into a different language and published in a different journal. In these and other cases where redundant publication is being considered by the author, the editors and the readers of each paper must be made aware that a second published version exists. This is not a duplicate publication, or this is not an unethical conduct if everybody is told about the things and if it is a translated work. Salami slicing refers to the practice of partitioning a large study that could have been reported in a single research article into smaller published articles. In simple words, breaking a big article into small articles and publishing it for 2, 3, 4 times instead of one time. It means breaking up a single research paper into least publishable units. with each paper reporting different findings from the same study. A set of papers are referred to as salami publications when more than one paper covers the same population, methods, and research question. I mean, if the same information is reported in one and the other paper, that two papers or three papers, then that is also called salami slicing. If the information from one paper is divided into two papers and published, that is also called salami slicing. Then there is something called selective reporting and misrepresentation of the data. This is the most unethical practice. When results from the scientific research are deliberately not fully or accurately reported in order to suppress negative or undesirable findings, it is called selective reporting, and that is unwanted in research. Misrepresentation refers to an interpretation of the result that is not consistent with the actual results of the study. In the discussion section of the paper, authors may take a strong position that relies more on their opinion than on the study results. I hope that you have understood what is scientific conduct and what is scientific misconduct, and you've liked this video. If you've liked it, please hit the like button and share this video with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe for the channel if you are new to it. Thank you very much for watching it.